Hi friends, how are you all doing? Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, let's see some of the SQL Server basics for beginners. Okay, these are the important concepts which every beginner DBA should know. Okay, let's start. I'm going to start with SQL Server Database Administrator responsibilities. Okay, so first, database installation and configuration. Every DBA should know database installation and configuration. Okay, he should be familiar with failover clustering, database replication, availability groups for high availability. Okay, the next one is database maintenance and performance tuning. A DBA should be aware of how to monitor and optimize query performance using SQL Server Profiler, execution plans, and indexing strategies. Perform database tuning by adjusting indexes, statistics, and server configuration. He should be able to optimize SQL Server memory, CPU, and disk I/O usage. And the next one is backup and recovery. He should be familiar with backup and recovery. He should know how to implement and test database backups using full differential and transaction log backups. Develop disaster recovery strategies using log shipping, mirroring, or always on availability groups. He should be able to restore databases in case of database corruption or system failure. We can use various third-party tools available for configuring databases on on-premises servers. Example, Avamar. For cloud servers, we can use Recovery Services Vault offered by Azure. Okay, for PaaS instances, backup and restore is handled by Microsoft. Okay, the next one is security and compliance. You should be aware of SQL Server logins, users, roles, permissions, and authentication. There are two types of authentication: Windows authentication and SQL Server authentication. Okay, and how to implement data encryption, auditing, compliance policies. Protect databases from SQL injection and other security threats. He should be aware of high availability and disaster recovery techniques. Okay, he will be able to configure failover clustering, database mirroring, log shipping, or always on. Ensure replication across multiple servers for fault tolerance. Okay, automation and scripting. He should be able to automate tasks using SQL Server agent jobs, PowerShell, or SSIS. Write T-SQL scripts for database maintenance and reporting. Monitoring, troubleshooting. Monitor SQL Server performance using SQL Server Profiler, extended events, and dynamic management views. Investigate blocking, deadlocks, and slow queries. He should be able to use third-party monitoring tools depending on the company, such as SolarWinds, Dynatrace, Redgate, or Idera. The next one is database design and development support. A DBA is responsible for working with developers to optimize schema design, indexing, and query performance. Assist in ETL processes, reporting, and business intelligence solutions. SQL Server patching and upgrades. This is the responsibility of DBA to apply service pack, cumulative updates, and hotfixes. Performs version upgrades. For example, SQL Server 2016 to SQL Server 2022. Documentation and reporting. Maintain database documentation. Generate audit reports for compliance and security. Okay, now let's see a brief history of Microsoft SQL Server. SQL Server has evolved significantly since its first release, introducing new features, performance improvements, and security enhancements. So let's see the timeline of SQL Server. Okay, so 1989 to 1999, these are considered as early years. So the first version of SQL Server was in 1989, which is called SQL Server 1.0. It is Microsoft partnered with Sybase and Aston Tate to create SQL Server for OS by 2 based on Sybase SQL Server. The next one is SQL Server 4.2, which was released in 1992. This is the first version released for Windows operating system. It is still closely tied to Sybase technology. The next one is SQL Server 6.0, which is released in 1995. Microsoft completely rewrote SQL Server, breaking away from Sybase. SQL Server 6.0 introduced stored procedures, triggers, and constraints. SQL Server 7.0, which is released in 1998. This is the first fully Microsoft developed version. Introduced GUI based administration, which is called Enterprise Manager. Enterprise Manager is a software used to connect to SQL Server, and added OLAP, Online Analytical Processing, and Data Transformation Services, DTS. Next comes 2000, Enterprise Grade SQL Server. Okay, SQL Server 2000, which was released in 2000. This version introduced index views, user-defined functions, and XML support. Introduced failover clustering for high availability. This is the first version to support 64-bit architecture. This is how it used to look. SQL Server 2005. This is a major overhaul with SQL Server Management Studio replacing Enterprise Manager. So in this version, SQL Server Management Studio was released, which replaced Enterprise Manager for connecting SQL Server. It introduced database mirroring, dynamic management views, and common language runtime integration. It also added XML and XQuery support. This is how it used to look. Okay, next comes SQL Server 2008 and 2008 R2. It introduced policy-based management, transparent data encryption, that is TDE, change data capture. SQL Server 2008 R2 improved Power Pivot and master data services. This is how it looks. This is SSMS connecting to SQL Server 2008. Next comes after 2010, which includes cloud and performance innovations. We have SQL Server 2012. It introduced always-on availability groups for high availability. Added column store indexes for performance improvements. Introduced SQL Server data tools for BI development. This is how it looks. This is SSMS connecting to SQL Server 2012. Next one is SQL Server 2014. It introduced in-memory OLTP, online transaction processing for faster transaction processing. Improved buffer pool extensions for SSD integration. This is how it looks. Next, let's see SQL Server 2016. Introduced query store to track execution plans and optimize queries. Added row level security, dynamic data masking, and always encrypted. It introduced Polybase for integrating with Hadoop and Azure. This is the SQL SSMS connecting to SQL Server 2016. Okay, next is SQL Server 2017. This is the first version to support Linux operating system. It introduced graph database support for complex relationships, performance improvements in adaptive query processing. And after 2020, which focuses on artificial intelligence, cloud, and hybrid features. SQL Server 2019. It introduced big data clusters to integrate with Spark and HDFS, enhanced data query processing, added always encrypted with secure enclaves for better data security. The latest version of SQL Server is SQL Server 2022. It has improved cloud integration with Azure Synapse and managed instance. It introduced SQL Ledger, which uses blockchain for tamper-proof records, performance improvements in intelligent query processing and TempDB handling. These are some of the new features in SQL Server 2022. Business continuity through Azure, seamless analytics over on-prem operational data, visibility over your entire data estate, most secure over the last 10 years, industry-leading performance and availability. So, what will be the future of SQL Server? Microsoft is focusing on cloud-based SQL, that is Azure SQL Database managed instances. More AI-driven query optimization and serverless computing integration. Continued enhancements in security, automation and performance tuning. Now let's see the editions of Microsoft SQL Server. SQL Server has several editions such as Enterprise Edition, Standard Edition, Development Edition, Web Edition. Okay, let's see one by one. The first one is Enterprise Edition. It is best for large enterprises, mission critical applications, high performance workloads. The key features are high availability, always on availability groups, failover clustering, performance optimization. It supports in-memory OLTP, advanced column store indexing. Security, it supports transparent data encryption, always encrypted, row-level security. Big data and AI, big data clusters, Polybase for Hadoop, Spark integration. Unlimited memory and CPU support. Uses all system resources. Licensing, it is core-based licensing. It is expensive but powerful. Next comes Standard Edition. This is best for medium-sized businesses, departmental applications and web applications. Key features are basic high availability, disaster recovery, log shipping, database mirroring without automatic failover. Performance supports basic column store indexes, query store. Security, basic encryption, row-level security, dynamic data masking. Resource limits, supports up to 24 cores, 128 GB RAM. It is core based or server plus CAL, cheaper than enterprise. So what is server plus CAL? It is a license that gives a user the right to access the services of the server. Okay, next is the Web Edition. This is best for web hosting providers, cloud-based applications and e-commerce websites. Key features are cost-effective option for web-based applications. It supports basic reporting and analytics, limited to lower CPU and RAM usage. It is only available through hosting providers, not for direct purchase. Next is Developer Edition. This is best for developers building and testing applications. Development edition is free. You can install it on your computer for practice and development. Includes all features of Enterprise Edition but not for production use. Free to use for development and testing. Licensing. This is free for development use only. Next is the Express Edition. This is best for small applications, learning and prototyping. Key features are free edition with limited features. Resource limits are 1 GB RAM, 10 GB database size and 1 CPU. Supports basic security and query processing. Licensing, this is free, no licensing cost. Next one is Azure SQL. This is cloud-based SQL. This is best for cloud applications, hybrid environments and managed database solutions. Key features are this is fully managed PaaS, platform as a service by Microsoft. Automatic backups, patching and scaling. Options, it has Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Managed Instance, SQL Server on Azure VM. licensing, pay as you go model, and this is subscription based pricing. So next, let's see the types of instances in SQL Server. SQL Server is an independent installation that runs as a separate service on a machine. SQL Server supports multiple instances on a single machine, each with its own databases, configurations, and security settings. So there are two types of instances of SQL Server: default instance and named instance. So what is default instance? Default instance has MS SQL as a name. Connection string will be only the server name or your laptop name. There will be only one default instance is allowed per server. Okay, so to connect to default instance, you can just specify a dot or your computer name. Okay, and port number for SQL Server default instance is 1433, but you can also change it. And named instance, this is custom name assigned during installation. Okay, you can install multiple named instances on the same computer. Okay, the connection string will resemble like this. So for example, SQL Server 01/salesdb. There can be multiple named instances can exist on the same machine. There can be only one default instance per computer. Okay, what are the SQL Server services and tools? SQL Server provides various services and tools. So let's look at SQL Server services. Okay, first one is SQL Server Database Engine. This is the core service responsible for managing databases, processing queries, and executing transactions. It runs as MS SQL for default instance and MS SQL instance name for named instance. SQL Server Agent. This is the automates jobs, backups, alerts, and scheduled tasks. It runs SQL scripts, SSIS packages, and administrative tasks. This is not available in Express Edition. SQL Server Browser. This is used for discovering SQL Server when there are multiple named instances. It helps clients connect to correct TCP/IP port when multiple instances exist. SQL Server Reporting Services. It generates and manages reports, dashboards, and visualizations. This is web-based interface for viewing reports. Next we have SQL Server Integration Services. It handles ETL, extract, transform, load processes, moves and transforms data between databases, files, and other sources. SQL Server Analysis Services. This provides OLAP, online analytical processing, and data mining, used for business intelligence and cube-based reporting. Next one is SQL Server Full Text Search. This enables fast searching for text data in SQL Server, supports indexing and ranking of text content. Next, let's look at some of the SQL Server tools. These are very important for a SQL Server DBA or developer. So first we have SQL Server Management Studio. This is a primary graphical user interface tool for managing SQL Server. It is used for writing queries, managing databases, and configuring security. This is free to download from Microsoft. Let me show you how SSMS looks. This is a SSMS which is used to connect to, this is a database instance. I have connected to database instance, and you can see there is one database. Okay, now let's see, next tool is SQL Server Configuration Manager. This manages SQL Server services, network protocols, and startup options. It helps to configure TCP/IP, name pipes, and SSL encryption. Next we have SQL Server Profiler. This is a deprecated feature in newer versions, and it is replaced by extended events. It captures real-time query execution and performance metrics, used for troubleshooting slow running queries and deadlocks. SQL Server Data Tools. This is a Visual Studio extension for developing databases, SSIS, SSRS, and SSAS projects, used by developers for schema design and deployment. SQL CMD. This is command line utility. CLI used for executing T-SQL queries, scripts and batch jobs. Useful for automating tasks in PowerShell or batch scripts. Next we have BCP, bulk copy program. This is a CLI tool for importing exporting large data sets. This is faster than traditional insert statements. Next we have Azure Data Studio. This is lightweight alternative to SSMS, optimized for cloud and cross-platform. Best for query execution, notebooks and DevOps tasks. Next we have Extended Events. This is modern tracing tool for capturing performance and debugging information. It replaces SQL Server Profiler in newer SQL Server versions. Next we have Database Tuning Advisor. It suggests indexing and query optimization strategies, helps improve performance by recommending missing indexes. So these are some of the tools provided by SQL Server. Okay, let me show you some of the tools. Here in SSMS, in tools we can see SQL Server Profiler, Database Engine Tuning Advisor, Azure Data Studio. Okay, so these are some of the basic concepts which every database administrator should be aware of. Okay, so that's all for today's tutorial. Let's meet in the next video. Thank you all.